All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
Welcome back to the Loose Wheels Show. My name is Andrew Hazel. Ethan Ignatowski is alongside,
What's up?
and this episode's going to be a jam-packed show. Looks like. So let's get right into it. The reviews.
And now for last week's race reviews.
Suarez, he was racing for Junior Motorsports. Technically, didn't qualify to make the race, the Xfinity race, but NASCAR allowed a provisional if you're a Mexican driver. So Suarez wound up taking that starting last. And Suarez, due to a lot of chaos and carnage, plus having a very fast car, wound up and won the race in his home country. So it was
How awesome is that?
yeah, it was a really cool moment for sure. I know he had been pushing that for many years. And I think, I think that was probably one of his top moments of his career right there. Probably top moment of one of the top moments of his life, maybe. I don't know. I can't speak for him, but I'm only guessing here. So Shane Van Gisbergen was on pole, and he led. And then we had a rain caution. Now here I'm gonna go on a little side tangent here. All the other racing series in the world, Ethan, when the rain comes, they don't throw a caution. But NASCAR, if there's rain of any kind, they throw a caution. It's like, come on. At this point, we've had, I don't know, over a half dozen wet weather races, I think. At least five now. I think I think maybe even six by this point. I don't know. I don't remember well, and I can't do math well. But this is within, I think, the last 7 years we've had about at least one rain race every year, and I think at this point the teams know how to decide when to go on rain tires and when to not. We don't need a free caution to allow teams to put on wets. It's kind of annoying. I don't like it very much, but we'll see if they decide to get rid of it at this point. Chastain came off pit road first, and Buescher and Cindric stayed out. Ty Gibbs got the lead on restart. He was running. He qualified well and ran well. And then before the restart, Nemechek, Austin Dillon, and Byron went into the runoff. Great driving there. And then Kyle Busch lost control under braking, collecting. Justin Haley, Chase Briscoe, Zane Smith, Kyle Larson, and AJ Allmendinger. Cindric ran wide after the incident and avoidance. Shane Van Gisbergen gets the lead on the restart. No, Gregson had a harmless spin. Green flag pit stops to end the stage. Top 16 stay out and try to get stage points as Ryan Preece won stage one. Stage two, at this point, the track was drying up at this point. You had McDowell, Hocevar, Suarez, and Stenhouse stay out on wets. Uh, Shane Van Gisbergen led the group on the dry tires, the slicks, and Cindric had still yet to pit in the race. Gregson, Ware, and Jones got into a harmless crash that brought out the yellow. Actually, it wasn't a harmless crash. I don't know why I wrote that. And then Suarez got the lead on restart, and then Gibbs got the lead. Nemechek had a harmless spin. Uh, got Todd Gillen had a harmless spin after contact from Priest. Then the four guys that I mentioned earlier who stayed out on wets, Suarez, McDowell's, Hosvar and Stenhouse pit under green. 11 this week was Ryan Truex because Denny Hamlin he had his baby on Wednesday, and I'm going to get off on another side tangent here. So if Denny Hamlin wanted to, he could have made that race.
Brother, his child was just born.
You do see that when often when the child is just born, this is not something that happens. Like, unless the child is being born at that time, you don't often, you don't ever see this. So, I think if it was any other race, Hamlin would have been racing, but on the border crossing, NASCAR allowed it. They kept the waiver. They give him the waiver so he won't lose any points. I think it's
Okay, this is a two-sided thing I need to say. No way, one, you're clowning this guy, or anyone is clowning this guy or anything for being there right after his kid was born. Two, y'all act like going across the country or going into a different country is like some insane process. You hand them your passport, it gets stamped, and you go in. Like this, it's not some insane 38 hours walking through hell process. You just cross the border. Like not yeah, yeah.
they what was I was going what I was gonna say I was before you interrupted me I was gonna say it was interesting and kind of refute that NASCAR had all the drivers leave on Thursday. So his baby was born on the Wednesday and they were all leaving Thursday. So that versus kind of being able to go back and forth. I don't know why they tried to have everyone go on Thursday. And I say tried because they had two of their planes taking people wound up getting grounded, which was unfortunate and did affect some things. But regardless, it's kind of all what happened. But Ryan Truex, he had a not very good race on pace and everything else considered. This point gives us holds the lead. Uh, Logano goes off, and green flag pit stops, top whatever, stay out, and SVG wins stage two. Stage three, some pit, not including SVG. Bell gets the lead on restart. Logano, Briscoe, and what was that?
I didn't say anything.
Thought I heard something. My ears are betraying me, or you're making random noises. Anyway, Logano, Briscoe, and McDowell go off. Chastain spins. Not Suarez. Stenhouse has a harmless spin. Shane Van Gisbergen gets the lead. Truex spins. Hocevar and Priest then go off different points. Uh, green flag pit stops. Hocevar spins mid-cycle, and that brought out a caution. Hocevar with a race to forget. Um, Gibbs first off. Then Shane Van Gisbergen was leading. Gibbs was 11th at this point. Uh, 88 of Shane Van Gisbergen held the lead on the restart. Uh, Ryan Truex slid. Briscoe hit the tire barrier, which this is one of the tire barriers that were next to the track, the track to enforce track limits. Blaney off, and then Zane Smith went off. Uh, Logano spins. Uh, Lugano spun Austin Dillon into Harrison Burton. None of these were bringing cautions at this point, by the way. And then uh, Byron spun Riley Herbst, and Riley Herbst almost pulled a Lance Stroll of rejoining the track and crashing into another car in the process. And then Stenhouse spun Hocevar off as VG. Shane Van Gisbergen wins again uh, for the second time in his career. 6.5 out of 10. I know it seemed like there was a lot of interesting things, which there were. There was the racing up front wasn't always interesting, so that's kind of my reason for my rating there. It was interesting.
It's racing. The action is at the front.
Mhm. Yeah.
We know this.
Um, I'm gonna get off on a quick side tangent here. Uh, Stenhouse went to host of our post race and yelled at him, "Once we get back in the States, I'm gonna beat you up." That's
Why
not
not just beat him up there? What you waiting for? What you waiting for, Ricky?
he I guess he didn't want to go to a Mexican jail if he got too carried away. Reg-
Man.
Regardless, which kind of going to segue into my next point here, is all the chicken award this week goes to every single moron who said, "Oh, th- this race is a disaster. I can't believe we're missing the second Richmond date for this. Yada, yada, yada. It's unsafe." First of all those things weren't true. I'd rather have this race any day of the week than a second Richmond race. You kidding me? I like Richmond was good when it had like two night races. Now with 2 day races, Richmond has fallen off hard.
40 races at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
40 races on the Charlotte dirt track. Let's be real here. Uh, or we can alternate between the dirt track. I think they've got a drag strip there, the Roval and the Oval. And
Nah.
London
Paris wouldn't
Spa.
like the Roval.
We do 8 races each at all those five Charlotte.
No. Way too many road races for the purists.
Purists. Oh God. Anyway, going back to my point is that the racing is good and it's for the fans too. The fan excitement was bigger than I've seen at any race in NASCAR, bigger than any Daytona 500, bigger than some Indy 500s too.
Yeah,
Like
it was
this,
crazy.
the fans were a good kind of crazy. They were what I've seen respectfully swarming drivers. Uh, I lot of fans there that were cheering on Suarez, which was cool to see. Whenever he caught the lead, the fans would go crazy, which I liked. Uh, it was a good area. I mean, I just uh, one spotter who said, "Oh yeah, that we're in such a terrible area. I can't go outside without being you're in a ding dong."
Yeah.
And host of our free weekend with uh, a Mexican sponsor who had never been in NASCAR before said the area was a crap hole, but with the expletive. And Hocevar has since apologized, and I think it's a sincere apology.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
wanna I wanna read at least a portion of his
okay, go
apology.
ahead.
He said, maybe a kid that has never been out of the country until Thursday should ever give an opinion about what a place is like other than Portage, Michigan. When I answered that question on a stream, I was skeptical about the trip so far and believed everything I read or heard about Mexico City from people who more than likely also had never been here. Now that I've actually left my hotel a couple times and raced here in front of this of some of the most passionate fans I've ever seen. My opinion has changed. I'm embarrassed by my comments, by the race I ran, and I may have to move here to hide out from Ricky anyway.
Hmm. And then,
The last bit was the cherry on top. But like respect for Hocevar for like admitting his 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 wrongdoing, I guess. I mean, he got fined or he's getting fined $50,000 and he is being made to go to sensitivity training. Um, but just good on him for like being a big enough person to apologize and you know admit he was wrong. And yeah, there's just all the discourse, all the discourse was way too negative. People get scared over absolutely nothing. Um, and yeah, I'm glad that he was able to take away a positive experience and use his platform to. He should have never made the comments in the first place, but at least he used his platform to take it back.
and when you think about it, the punishment does make sense. Uh, and Yeah, and then some fans were like, "No, no, this is stupid." Yeah, 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 yeah. And then Hostfire has put out another tweet saying, like, yeah, yeah, this is like I deserve the punishment. Like this is a guy I will say who is genuinely knows he screwed up.
Yeah.
And to all the naysayers, the chicken award goes to you. I have in our sheet where I keep track of awards, morons uh, as the recipient of this week. Yeah, you get the chicken award.
And like you said, like
And
Hocevar doubled down. Like when he you know, when the punishment was announced, he, like you said, he went back on Twitter. He was like, "Yeah, I messed up." He said part of what he said was, "I appreciate growing up in front of all of you, and you guys get to see the good and the bad." Like he admits there's he messed up. He messed up.
Mhm. Yeah, there. Here's the thing that some people like. It was this was we had similar, not to this extreme, discourse on when we went to Chicago for the first time. Like nothing's gonna be as safe as Kannapolis, North Carolina, or wherever, but that's
It's
fine.
just it's just
That's fine.
I genuinely have to laugh. Like
Genuinely
living
fine.
in major cities and just being around major cities, like my entire life. Like all these like small town NASCAR heads, just NASCAR people, like it really is the meme of small town person scared of everything in the big city. Like it's it it's the gift that keeps on giving from a comedy perspective, and then you have to realize, oh wait, these people are actually serious, and then you're just like, how do people actually think this way?
Yeah. Yeah. Going back stateside to Gateway, also known as Worldwide Technology Raceway, but no one calls it that. Gateway.
Did you see, before you get into it, did you see, like, I don't know if that was like AI or just like horrendous like
Oh,
graphic effects, but they moved the gateway arch first, like into view of the track, which it's not. And then they moved it like onto the track, like drivers were driving under the gateway arch. Did you see that, Andrew?
yeah. I didn't see it live because I don't watch practice,
Yeah, I
but
didn't see it live either. No one
I
watches our practice, but come on.
but I just saw that. First I'm
That was
like,
horrible.
what's going on? And then oh, that's what's going on. Um, I don't. It's not quite to the level of Arca Breaks moment of the week, or really an organization of
I'll
inept.
give him the Lance Stroll Award.
So Fox, IndyCar on Fox gets the Lance Stroll medallion, Sir Lancelot Medal of Excellence.
Yeah, something like that.
That's what it's listed on the sheet. So anyway, Indy next winner, Lockie Hughes. I think his first time out on an oval, to my knowledge. I could be wrong on that. But on the race, Will Power was on pole. He fell back early, uh, uh, a little bit, and then Malukas to the lead. Then about like 5 laps in, Devlin DeFrancesco spun by himself, wrecking his car, and Devlin DeFrancesco gets the Arca Breaks moment of the week, but not for this, as after the crash, you get checked out by the infield care center, yada yada yada. Then he was running back to his car, like actually running. Du-du-du-du-du. And the IndyCar cameraman was following him. And as he's running up pit road, bro stops and just stands there. And then the IndyCar cameraman, he's still running at this point and collides into him. He didn't have much time to react to that. But for that, Devlin DeFrancesco, recipient of the ARCA Breaks moment of the week. So yeah, back to the actual racing. Malukas holds the lead, and then Power went in the roll, and then 7 stops on pit road of uh, Rasmussen. He actually stopped on pit road. Like that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to keep going instead of just stopping randomly. But yeah, Power's day was done as I failed to mention. Rasmussen was on fire, exiting pits. That's second time in 3 races that uh, ECR car has been on fire on pit road. But at this point, McLaughlin got the lead. We had unsafe release penalties for Rosenquist and Rasmussen, drive-throughs for them. Green flag, then we had green flag pit stops. Newgarden got the lead on the undercut. And then Fox was going to brake. They had this little package of Newgarden pointing at the viewer. And then, before they could get the brake, they came out of the brake, and Joseph Newgarden was upside down. Everyone was wondering, like, huh? What? Did we, are we showing a highlight from a previous race here, or what? And what happened was, this was from the current race, as Louis Foster lost control, and he had something broke in the suspension after he lost control because he got into the wall. Very similar to Powers, but with him he spun down the track, and Newgarden had nowhere to go. And so Newgarden was launched out upside down. It took the IndyCar medical team less than 4 seconds to get to Newgarden. So I great stuff there. Newgarden was able to walk away just fine. But
Crazy these days.
here's the thing. Foster's car sliding down the track. If it didn't stay slide down the track, Newgarden would have scooted away fine, and Alex Palou would have been the guy that would have crashed. It's crazy because this is kind of a microcosm of both drivers' seasons as a whole. 'Cause Palou, for the most part, has been getting the breaks, has had the fast cars, and won. Newgarden, he still had some fast cars, but nothing has gone Newgarden's way this season outside the podium at St. Petersburg. He's 16th in points, Ethan. 16th for
I
Penske
I
car,
wouldn't
who
have I wouldn't have expected that at all.
for a Penske team who's supposed to be the best team in the series, argue. At least the best Chevy team. Behind
I mean, we had him like, or we agreed that he was like a top. I don't remember exactly what we said, but I don't think we put him lower than 5
Yeah.
preseason.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking. 16th in points. He's behind a Dale Coyne car, both of the ECR cars, both of the Foyt cars, both of the Shank cars. That's what's crazy to me is Felix Rosenquist is beating all three Penske cars this season. If you'd asked me that 8 races in, I'd say you're crazy. I'll get to this later, but coming into the race, IndyCars only had 2 winners, and post really Long Beach, as soon as we've hit this this month of May stretch with Alabama, Birmingham now to transitioning to June, season's been a good season considering. So, um, still had some interesting racing. Now it's been dominated by 2 guys. Um, so the first 3 off pit road at this point were Malukas, McLaughlin, and Pato O'Ward. However, the 3 and 4 were docked with improper lane usage. They had to lose 3 positions. What I'm surprised is that they didn't call it an unsafe release penalty, which I thought both of them were, which they would have been sent to the rear of the field, or if they took longer, a drive-through penalty to figure out that. So that was interesting to me. That was surprising. So that means Pato O'Ward inherited the lead, and quickly on the restart, Connor Daly passed O'Ward, and if you were to tell me Connor Daly would be leading an IndyCar race on pace at the beginning of the season at Gateway, I would have said, you're crazy because Penske's always really good there. Malukas is always really good there. Pato O'Ward's good there. You've got uh uh Dixon and Palou one. Dixon's one there. So that's 6 guys. I would have said, how are they not ahead of him? And to answer that question, uh 2 had wrecked out, 2 had gotten penalties. Scott Dixon was nowhere to be found, and Daly passed O'Ward on pace. So that was really cool to see us to see a small team up there with no alliance. I know Voigt you can kind of consider a small team, but not really because Voigt has that alliance with Penske at the end of the day. So yeah, green flag pit stops. So Lucas got into the wall with the yellow. His car wound up being fine. Dixon was leading as he was the only car not to pit. But Dixon had a lap over everyone, so he got a free pit stop and held the lead over Award and Kirkwood. McLaughlin, he had, this when we got going, a mechanical issue. So Team Penske on a day that they could have easily gone 1, 2, 3. That was not out of the question. They don't have any cars in the top 20. Just everything has been a mess at Team Penske this year. Nothing has gone right. No wins at this point. So I think it's with all these leadership changes, this might be in the new Team Penske. I don't, I mean, Newgarden's car was a freak accident, but mechanical issues is two and power going into the wall. But McLaughlin with a mechanical issue, just I don't know. Team Penske's all just so off this year. And maybe they kind of just slide down the pecking order here, which if you'd asked me at the start of the year, could Team Penske slide down the pecking order? I'd say there's no way. Hell has a better chance of freezing over than that happening. Pigs are going to fly before that happens this year. But here we are. That's racing, and racing you don't expect. You
That's
you
why we go
expect the
out
unexpected.
and play the sports, go out and run the races.
Yeah,
Crazy things happen.
yeah. And then we had a green flag pit stops. We had Kirkwood to lead. It's on the restart. Nolan Siegel, he was racing Pato Award really hard, which got allowed Kirkwood to get around him. And quite frankly, this is on McLaren. They should have just said, "Okay, Siegel." And Siegel didn't even get a good jump on the restart. He said, "Okay, Siegel, let Pato pass soon. Doesn't have to be right away. Let him pass soon." And if you get a bad jump on the restart and he's trying to pass you, just let him go. You're a lap down. You're probably not going to race your way around Scott Dixon. And if caution comes out, you can get the wave round. No biggie. But that's not the case. And then Kirkwood uh, got the lead. Uh, Rosenquist and Islet were trying to stretch fuel. They wound up being, I think it was 10 laps short for Rosenquist, like 6 laps short for Islet. And then wound up being the podium, wound up being Kirkwood Award and Christian Rasmussen, who passed like 50 cars plus that race, uh, just going from the back to the front multiple times. I would give this race a 9 out of 10 for me. Um, going so this season has only had two winners, and I would argue the racing this season's still been pretty solid regardless.
Looking
Um,
like F1 2021 or something out there.
mhm. We did this for NASCAR, but I'm gonna go through but we're about halfway through the season, 8 out of the 17 races. So I'm gonna give my three surprises good and three surprises bad. I already hit on one, and that was Joseph Newgarden, P16 in the standings, uh, zero top eight finishes outside of that St. Petersburg podium. Just been a disaster this year in terms of everything. Just really disappointing there. My next disappointment is going to be Marcus Ericsson. I thought he finished really poor in the Saints last year, and I thought this is a fluke. This is an Andretti car that and driver team combination that should be top 10 or so. And this year it's gotten worse. A sixth place at St. Pete was the team's only top 11 finish. They were disqualified from the Indy 500. It's been a horrible year for Ericsson. He's 19th in the standings behind Graham Rahal, who, if this were about 3 years ago, I'd say that's not a big problem. But Graham Rahal, he's old and his performance has dropped off significantly. He's not bad, but he's not what he once was. Unfortunately. So yeah. And then my next disappointment, I think this is kind of in might might be, oh, Andrew, this guy's still kind of a rookie, but he's really not in the fact that it's Nolan Siegel. I mean, he's still a young driver, but he's just been off the pace so much of his McLaren teammates. Makes you wonder, it's like, man, they could have had Cal Milot, who's not having a good year, and which I could have mentioned as my disappointment, or Teo Pourchaire or David Malukas. But no, they opted to go for Siegel, and they've signed him for next year too, but I don't know if this is the option for him. uh like it hasn't run well. And I wonder, I don't I have zero experience driving a race car, and I could be very off on my kind of theory here, but Siegel was supposed to do last year, a few starts for Dale Coyne while driving Indy Next. With his promotion, kind of like mid-season, dropped his Dale Coyne events and his Indy Next program. So I wonder, hmm, that messed with his development going from one car to another car mid-season. I don't know. I have no clue. But he's still a rookie, still got time to learn, but well, he's not a rookie, but he's in his first full season. He's got time to learn, but man, it's really concerning that an Arrow McLaren car, arguably the top Chevy team now, if not the top Chevy team, the second best Chevy team, has a car in 21st. That's that's concerning. Obviously, he's got the rest of 25 and 26 to figure it out. But I don't know. I don't know how everything's going to look out. You've got a lot of quality drivers that are are sitting on the sidelines and sitting on worse cars. But anyway, I'm going to go into my three good surprises this year, and I'm going to start off with a guy who I didn't expect to be in the top 10 in standings. He's got four top 10 finishes. That's half the races this year, Ethan. Marcus Armstrong in the Shank car. I know they've got the Ganassi Alliance, but I still would have thought, okay, he he didn't finish in the top 10 last car in a true Ganassi car. So okay, maybe he's going to take a step back this year, and I think that would still be a respectable season. But he's improved. I he's ahead of a lot of guys that I would expect them to be behind of. Joseph Newgarden, Marcus Ericsson, Alexander Rossi, Malukas Ferrucci. Shows you the quality of driver Marcus Armstrong is still improving, but we'll see if he can hang on to that 10th place in the standings. Good season for him. I'm gonna go a guy who is a little bit lower in the standings, but I think has done impressive stuff regardless, and that is Rinus VK. VK was driving a Dale Coyne car. The Dale Coyne cars are haven't been good in the last handful of years. The last time, because VK is running 15th. The last time a Dale Coyne car ran 15th or better, you have to go to the year Roman Grosjean did a part-time season in 21, where he missed three races. That's how far you have to go back. And then, yeah, that so Dale Coyne since then hasn't had the stuff they wanted. They've got VK. He has a lot of four top tens this season already. Last time someone did that was Malukas in 23, where he had six, and that's probably going to be tied or beat by VK this season. So yeah, the team's best finish was a 13th last year, which was done by two different drivers. 13th. And now VK has beat that four different times this year. So shows you the driver that Rinus VK is. He should really be up there. And my final pick, I could go Felix Rosenquist and a Shank car up in P6 having a really solid year. Christian Rasmussen in 14th, really solid year. Actually, I don't know. I could go. I could go Christian. I actually am gonna go with Felix Rosenqvist. I was thinking about him or Christian Lundgaard, but I kind of expected this out of Lundgaard. But he has 3 podiums already. Lundgaard does, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if Lundgaard takes the fight to Pato Award this year. And he has, to an extent, 40 points back in the standings right now, 2 positions. But Felix Rosenqvist, he's had a lot of top tens this year, 5 already. Uh, had a really consistent season. That's what Felix Rosenqvist does. He probably should. He was one of the guys that McLaren cycled in and out of their second cars. He drove for Ganassi at one point, and it makes you wonder if he's doing this in kind of a second-rate car. What can he do in a first-rate car? Scott Dixon's getting old. He's going to have to retire soon. Kiffin Simpson, he's running in 20th. Maybe if there's an opening at Ganassi, could Rosenqvist go back to his former team? You wonder. He's got the results. 4th at Indy. He's had a very good year. So anyway, off my side tangent is over. Ethan, you want to talk about Canada now? Go ahead.
Yeah, let's do it. Um, so no F2 or F3 results to go over, so just getting right into Formula One. Um, Canada was just the second time all year that a McLaren hasn't been on the front row to start the race. Oscar Piastri was starting third behind George Russell and Max Verstappen, and Lando was down in P7. He just had a shocker in qualifying. I mean, he was running well all weekend, and then he just wasn't. Um, Into the race, though, George got a good launch off the line to stay ahead of Max into turn 1 and out of turn 2. Oscar tried to go around the outside of Max, exiting turn 2, but Max was able to cover him off, and it opened the door for Kimi Antonelli to kind of slide down the inside of Oscar Piastri and pull off a really brave move into turn 3. Nice move from someone as young as him and with as, little experience in F1 as he has. It was a great move and an extremely crucial move in the race. Down the field, there was some more lap one battles, most notably, excuse me, between Alex Albon and Franco Colapinto, going back and forth. Alex tried to make a move around the outside of turn 8. He went off the track, cut through the grass, looked super bumpy, could not have been comfortable at all. And when he rejoined, he caused some chaos. Cars were swarming around him. Nico Hulkenberg was able to get back past both him and Franco Colapinto, and Isaac Hadjar was able to get through on Albon. Things kind of calmed down after lap 1. There was some close racing, but nothing really super significant happened until lap 11 when Lando Norris got super close to Fernando Alonso at the hairpin and made a move on the back straight for Lando's first pass of the day up to P6. The next lap 12, Max came in for his first pit stop of the day, trying to undercut George. George came in the next lap and successfully defended that undercut. This just kind of started the pit cycle for the most of the rest of the grid. Lap 15, Lando was able to get close to Lewis and pass him before Lewis dove into the pits. Lap 17, Gabriel Bortoleto lost 2 positions in a really short amount of time. Carlos Sainz made a really beautiful late braking move down the inside at the hairpin, and then Yuki Tsunoda nabbed a place from him right after on the straight. Really crucial move for Sainz as he was working his way up into the points. And then not much of note really happened during the rest of the second stage of the race. Esteban Ocon was making some nice moves, making his way up the grid into 8th. Him and Alonso were battling it out. Leclerc got ahead of Lewis. And then on lap 38, Max pit for the second time, and then on lap 39, Kimi pit, and he almost actually overcut Max, but Max was able to uh, get into second and keep it. And then over the next 15 laps or so, the top five drivers, which were George, Max, Kimi, Oscar, and Lando, they all got super close to each other, like within 5 seconds. Alex Albon had an engine issue, had to retire from the race during this time. Lance Stroll got a penalty for pushing Pierre Gasly off the track, but the action was at the front. Everyone was getting super close together. We didn't really know what was going to happen. On lap 55, Oscar got super close to Kimi. Looked like he might be able to get a move done, but he wasn't able to. But they were battling super close, and then a gap started to form between the two of them, and Lando got really close to the rear of Oscar. And then this is where we had the climax of the race, lap 66. Lando made what, quite frankly, was a really nice move down the inside of Oscar at the hairpin. And they were both tumbling down the back straight side by side. When Lando made that move down the inside, he went back out to the outside. Oscar stuck with an inside line down the back straight. And they were side by side. I don't really know if it would have been possible for Lando to get that inside line. Probably not, just with the radius of his move on Oscar, but that would have been more ideal because for him anyway, because with the two of them side by side and Oscar having the inside line, he was able to break late and take a defensive line through the chicane to hold off Lando. But Lando was still right there. Both cars went toward the inside of the track, and Lando tried to make a lunge down the inside, but there just wasn't room. He went into the grass, he went into the wall, destroyed his front wing, he destroyed his front left axle. Race ruined. He immediately apologized over team radio. He took responsibility. I think that was the correct thing to do. That he knew he was in the wrong. Like he tried to make a move when there wasn't room for a move. I don't know why he did it. I think I think you could ask him and he wouldn't know why he did it. Like I guess it was just desperation because it was probably his best opportunity to get past Oscar, and maybe a bit of desperation from his move at the hairpin not fully sticking. Some people have different views on it though. Jacques Villeneuve, 1997 Formula One world champion, he blamed Oscar. He said that Oscar was gradually moving toward the left, and I don't know. I don't know. Like it's it's always difficult when like people of his stature come out and say something because it's like my word versus a Formula One world champion. But I just quite frankly don't see it, and he's definitely in the minority with this opinion. Like yes, both drivers went to the inside um of the track, but once they were on the inside of the track, I don't think like Oscar was gradually inching toward the left, like coax Lando into making a move and then just kind of like slam the door on him. Like that, I don't see that's what happened. Lando just made a move that was never gonna work. And I think going down the inside there, if there was room, is probably optimal because you can kind of hold off Oscar into turn one if you are able to make the move, and if you're around the outside, Oscar could kind of you know push you off track in a way that like with what we saw in it could have been like a Saudi Arabia-esque move, turn one move. Maybe he could have spun it around the outside, but probably not. So I understand the thought process, but you have to realize in the moment that it was never going to work. He did realize after the fact. So yeah, either way, no matter what your views on it, where fact of the matter is Lando had to retire from the race, joining Albon, who I previously mentioned, and then Liam Lawson also had to retire from the race. This incident was right at the end of the race. So the race did finish under a safety car, which don't mention that to your local Lewis Hamilton fan. They still can't let 2021 go.
Womp womp.
To any Lewis fans out there. But I think Andrew, I think you summed it up pretty well right there. Um, George Russell, he took the win from pole. Amazing drive from him. Um, he kind of afterwards he kind of downplayed that, this is a turning point for Mercedes. He kind of said like, oh, it's colder here, the car works better in colder environments. I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of a turning point, maybe not. Only time will tell, but irregardless, it was a really nice drive from pole from him. Max Verstappen did finish second, and then Kimi Antonelli rounded out the podium to give Mercedes their first double podium of the year. Kimi's first podium of his F1 career, third youngest driver to be on a Formula One podium. Whole lot of accolades there. Super happy for the kid. He had a really rough triple header with two DNFs because his engine blew twice, and then there was some sort of mechanical failure that happened twice, and then the car was just not good in Monaco, and it was just an absolutely horrific strategy in Monaco. So really rough triple header. He comes off of it with his first podium. So like I said, super happy for him. It's also the first time all year that there wasn't a McLaren on the podium. Oscar Piastri, he finished fourth, but that's not the podium. He'll still take the result, especially with Lando, his closest championship rival, retiring from the race. Leclerc was fifth, followed by Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, who was able to not only get eighth place back from Esteban, but improved up to seventh. And then eighth was Nico Hulkenberg, ninth was Esteban, and 10th was Carlos Sainz. Piastri now leads Lando 198 to 176 in the World Drivers' Championship. It is still a relatively close championship battle. Like it's only like 20 something points that separate the two, but it would take an Oscar DNF and like a Lando, like at least a podium to make it feel close again. Like I don't want to say that it's Oscars to lose at this point, just because it is still such a close gap. Like a win and an Oscar DNF puts Lando in the lead, but you just have to think like, do I think that something like that is going to happen? I, honestly, no, just with how reliable the McLaren has been mechanically. Um, Lando can inch himself back into it being like a super tight race, but Oscar has a bit of breathing room for himself now, is I guess what I'm trying to say. In terms of putting a number on it, I think it was like a 6 out of 10. I think it was like a little bit better than your average F1 race. I've seen some disagreement online, but I enjoyed it. There was a lot of close action. There wasn't as much passing as we've seen at some other races this year, but still a lot of tight action that, keeps you engaged with the race. Um, Late safety car, uh, that brought out some excitement. So with all that being said, I think it was marginally better than average. So that's why it gets a 6 from me.
And now for the news.
Into the news, we got some Formula One news kicking off. Staying with Canada, Canada GP signs new agreement to 2035, Ethan.
Yeah.
I think this is a good thing. I don't know about you.
I love it. I mean, Canada is one of my favorite tracks on the calendar. I think it's a lot of drivers' favorite tracks on the calendar. I like that we're sticking with, this track and sticking in North America. I don't think it was ever like a real thought that this track would be off the calendar anytime soon, but they're doubling down their commitment. And the reason I say they're doubling down their commitment is because there was already a deal in place to run until the 2031 season. And now we're getting an extension on top of that through 2025. So I'm happy with the news. I love it. We have a Canadian driver on the grid with Lance Stroll. Who knows if he'll be on the grid in 10 years, but there's it's a home race for him. Canada has a place in the sport. There's been a Canadian GP like every single year, almost every single year since like the late 60s. So, um, yeah, yeah, I love to see it. And there's a lot of kind of track news on the schedule or on our rundown. It's not just Canada being signed through 2035. We are seeing that Kailami has basically per the AP, the circuit says that the FIA has approved upgrades which would upgrade the track to FIA Grade 1 status and therefore let it host a Formula One race. Now, nothing has actually happened with the track quite yet, but it's a step closer. Basically, what the AP is saying is that design proposals have been accepted, and if those proposals are followed through, then the track would be upgraded from a Grade 2 status to a Grade 1 status. Um, the circuit owner, Toby Venter, said that he's ready for Formula One to return to African soil. We're hearing that Rwanda and Morocco are trying to get races in F1 too, but this is definitely the furthest along uh, on the continent of Africa in terms of how close anyone is to hosting an F1 race. F1 has raced at Kailami before. There's history there. It's a track that drivers want to go to. It's a track that already exists. They just need to do some upgrades. And if there are some upgrades, I think we could very easily see Kailami join the schedule in the following years. And then another piece of track news is that Thailand has the country of Thailand has approved uh, a bid for the country to host a street race in Bangkok. It was a $1.23 billion bid, and now this does not mean that anything is necessarily going to happen. It just means that they're going to start working toward this happening. Nothing's confirmed. Nothing has been decided as if F1 will race there, but it's a major step in that direction. ESPN is reporting that the proposed track would be a 3.54-mile circuit located around what seems to be a train station and a park in the northern part of Bangkok, Thailand. The Prime Minister of Thailand, he has been talking to Stefano Domenicali in recent months about Thailand hosting a race. Thailand has already invested in a way in Formula One with Alex Albon. Alex Albon races with a Thai license. He has backing from Thailand. And if this were to happen, um, it would happen between the years of 2028 and 2032. And the reason for that is because, first, it needs to actually be a thing that can happen. And then, you'll see Zandvoort fall off the calendar after 2026. Barcelona's gonna be off the calendar after 2026 as well. Um, Spa is unfortunately moving to an every other year schedule until its contract expires in 2031. So, um, it's interesting. I'm not really in. It is interesting. I don't really love it. Because you guys already know how I feel about street circuits, but I'll try to keep an open mind. I mean, Zandvoort is unique and it's interesting, but it's not necessarily a track that I'm going to miss. Barcelona isn't a track I'm going to miss. Not that I'm looking forward to the Madrid circuit that's replacing it anyway. It just like if Spa eventually like fully falls off the calendar and we're replacing it with like a Thailand street circuit, who knows? Maybe this track will be amazing, but that just makes me sad, honestly. Like
I
it
agree.
doesn't bring excitement to me. Um, yeah, I think last time we talked, Andrew, we talked about the Formula One calendar for 2026, but it wasn't official yet. We were just talking about reports that the Athletic had made, and you know, when you're talking about a report that the Athletic is making, that it's going to be the official calendar. But do we want to run through the 2026 calendar just really quick?
Sure.
All right. So season starts off in Australia, and then we go to China, Japan, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Miami, Canada in May, competing with the Indy 500. We've already talked about that. We've already talked about how neither of us like that or think it's a good idea. Um, for a multitude of reasons. Go back and watch either our last episode or the episode before that to hear our full thoughts on that. No reason to rehash it out, but that is what's happening. And then Monaco in early June before the first of two dates in Spain, Barcelona, Catalonia track. And then we go to Austria, Britain, Belgium, Hungary, Zandvoort for the last time in a while. Italy at Monza because no Imola, which makes me sad. And we have the second of our two Spain dates to round out the European leg, the Madrid street circuit, which we'll see how it is. Then we go to Baku, Singapore, Coda, Mexico City, Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. That's the calendar, for better or for worse. I don't hate it, but it's definitely not my dream calendar, but it's also not even my realistic dream calendar. I'd like to see Imola on there. I we don't need a straight circuit in Madrid. If you want to replace Barcelona with that eventually, sure, but we don't need both of them on the same calendar.
I would say it's a slight downgrade as a
Yeah,
as a calendar.
I agree. Slight downgrade, but relatively similar. So it is what it is. Um, yeah, we see some dates shake up, which aren't ideal, and just it's whatever. But like I said, it's whatever. I will say back to the not Thailand, excuse me, Canada getting an extension. If I love Canada, I love the Canadian Grand Prix, but if for the next 10 years it's gonna be competing with the Indy 500, no one, I mean, people will watch it, but I won't be one of them. Um, and that's something that also disappoints me. But away from the calendar and into some other news, Austin Martin has signed Giles Wood, who is being described by multiple people as an ally of Adrian Newey. He worked closely with Newey during the Sebastian Vettel era at Red Bull. So that was the golden age of Red Bull. So that's massive. Him and Adrian obviously have a a good relationship. After he left, working alongside Adrian Newey, he worked with a different section of Red Bull, Red Bull Advanced Technologies, and then he's been with with Apple ever since. But he is back in Formula One with Austin, going to be helping out with the simulation tools. So I assume that means, just like the sim and making it as realistic as possible and helping drivers with the sim. So that's interesting. Um we're seeing, simulation getting better and better, and we'll see if he can take it to the next step. He'll also be um working alongside a another new appointee at Austin. Jack Vino has been appointed as the chief aerodynamicist. So he'll be working alongside Adrian Newey. He was a aerodynamicist at Toyota and then Red Bull for a little bit and then Renault. And then he became a senior and then later chief aerodynamicist at Mercedes and is now leaving or he already left. He's now at Austin. So a couple of additions over there. Austin's trying their best to assemble kind of like a dream team. And we'll see how it works in 2026 and beyond. Because they seem to have the funds, they seem to have the personnel. Um, I I feel a little crazy saying this, but I almost trust this side of the team more than the driver lineup, and obviously yes, Lance Stroll, but with Fernando Alonso at this point in his career, I don't know, but I'm excited to see how things shake out over there. Should be interesting. And then our last piece of Formula One news for today is the Renault boss, not the boss of like Alpine F1 um or anything like that. Like the CEO of Renault, Luca De Meo, is leaving Renault and joining a I don't remember what company he's joining, some luxury brand, but main takeaway is he's um leaving Renault. Alpine, obviously, a subsidiary of Renault. And Luca De Meo, he's a car guy. Like he loves Formula One. Alpine exists in Formula One
The way to
right now.
put it.
Sorry.
That is a way to put it.
Alpine exists in Formula One right now because Luca De Meo. So it'll be interesting to see if whoever is now in charge or whoever becomes in charge of Renault, like what their thoughts on the Formula One project is going forward, because Renault is going to be ending its engine manufacturing duties, I guess you want to call them. The team is really struggling, has been struggling. Flavio Briatore is saying that nothing will change. Um, but we don't actually know that. And it's definitely a story to watch as things unfolds over at the French outfit.
Yeah, going into the NASCAR news now. Get two uh kind of schedule shakeups. First one per Carson Hocevar on his stream. He says Chicagoland will return as there's a growing feeling that the in the NASCAR garage that the city of Chicago will not renew their deal. And NASCAR doesn't want to lose the Chicago mark, so they'll move that race to from the street course to the oval, and then a San Diego street course will to be featured in 2026 per Jordan Bianchi. So that would still keep the street course race. Um, so that leaves kind of two questions. Yeah, I would put these rumors on a 4 out of 5 likeliness happening. So they're not. I do think they will happen. So if they do happen, that would still keep the amount of road and street races at 6. So what date? Who would lose a date potentially? And I think possibly Phoenix or Las Vegas could lose one of their dates. I don't think Atlanta will lose one of its dates. That's possible. Maybe a Kansas or Darlington or Bristol or Martinsville. Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I wouldn't want to lose a track to gain one of these. And then who would be the July 4th weekend track? Because for the longest time that was Daytona. And they said, okay, we're going to move it to Indianapolis. And then they moved it to Road America. And now it's Chicago. So who's going to get that date next? Maybe back to Indy, I think would be a good feasible move. I think could be good. I think San Diego might be a little too hot for a July 4th weekend date, in my opinion. Um,
Fair.
trying to think. I
I
don't.
don't think I don't think San Diego would be too
mm,
warm for 4th of July. I mean, I'll look it up, but San Diego stays pretty. I don't know. The temperature doesn't get too crazy in San Diego.
Yeah, but
Yeah, the average temperature in July is 70, a high of 76.
really,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Like San Diego doesn't get hot.
uh,
Like low 80s at the most.
so maybe I guess then. I I'm not a weather person, but maybe.
Hot, but you just gotta know that San Diego is beautiful.
hmm Regardless, it'll be interesting to see how how the schedule is going to shuffle because it looks like there might be some sort of shuffle.
Hmm.
IndyCar, to the surprise of absolutely no one, shifts their new car and engine to 2028. Uh, I don't even know why they're pushing it back at this point, uh, but they are.
Because someone's gonna exit the sport.
You think Honda's leaving?
Mm, I mean, if the rumors are to be believed.
I don't know. I don't. There are, yes, there are rumors that Honda is leaving. I don't think I buy them right now. I just haven't seen enough smoke from the right sources.
I think that this, if you look at, I don't know, maybe I'm putting on a tinfoil hat when I'm looking at this, but like a move like this to push it back a year kind of makes me think, kind of makes me wonder.
We'll see. Um, we'll definitely see. This point, the current car started racing in 2012. It's old enough to be a vintage car now. Technically, you can enter it in vintage racing series.
Are you
So,
serious?
yeah, a car has to be 10 years old for it to be vintage eligible.
That's hilarious. Wow.
So at this point, the the the, the car is gonna be racing for um trying to do math here. 16 years old? 16 complete 16 seasons of racing if
I was about to get its driver's license.
yeah, that's just ridiculous. And Hunkos Hollinger is the for the final piece of news seeking a new investment. You've seen it with ECR getting the coffee dude. I don't know his name. The Java House Splenda guy. He's he invested in ECR. Now one now trying other teams trying to do the same as Uncos does in Hollinger. That team does eat some money with Daly's car. Uh, in the past, they ate money with both cars. Now that so Stingray Rob being a pay driver, they're not losing money, so that's kind of a good thing. But they could always use some more money.
And now for next week's race previews.
Into the previews, Ethan. Road America, uh, for IndyCar. The five drivers I have highlighted: Alex Palou, two-time winner there; Will Power, two-time winner there; Scott Dixon, two-time winner there. Uh, Changing something real quick. Uh, Scott Dixon, two-time winner. I don't know if I said that already. And Joseph Newgarden, two-time winner there, along with one-time winner, uh, Felix Rosenqvist, honorable mention, Alexander Rossi. Uh, Indy next, the only driver change in the HMD 18 is going to be Evagoras Papasavas. Uh, Not really anything interesting other than that. Pocono Cup Series, the only open team will be the 44 NY Racing with Brendan Poole. The five, I have Denny Hamlin, a seven-time winner there. Joey Logano, a one-time winner there. Uh, Chris Buescher, a one-time winner there. Ryan Blaney, who's won there twice, by the way. And I'm trying. I've got my other driver listed as zero, and I know that can't be right. Oh, Chase Elliott, who won there once. That's it. Honorable mentions, just guys I'm leaving off that haven't had shown pace recently. Alex Bowman, one-time winner there. Brad Keselowski, one-time winner there. Along with Kyle Busch, four-time winner there. Um, yeah. Xfinity got a long list of drivers who are changing. Patrick Emmerling in the '07 for SS Greenlight alongside Garrett Smithley, uh, kind of usual driver there. Chase Elliott in the 17, Justin Bonsignor in the 19. The Joey Gase cars are 35 of Carson Ware, and the 53 last I checked is driver TBA. I don't think that has changed. I'm fact checking this real quickly. And let's see. Race number 16. 16. Logan Bearden will be in the 53, making his first start for the 53 this year. 45 Mason Massey for Alpha Prime, 70s Leland Honeyman Jr. for Cope. Mike Harmon's running with the 74 Dawson Cram, and Josh Balicki's in the 91 for DGM. Truck Series, Brand Jones will be in the 1 for Tricon. 02 will be Nathan Bird. For Young's, the 22 and 2 for Rayon Brothers are Clayton Green and Cody Dennison, respectively. Norm Benning will be in his own 6 truck.
Let's go.
The 7 of an '07 for Spire will be Carson Hosfart and Patrick Emmerling. The Fire Department of New York Racing, FDNY Racing, is bringing their 28 truck for Brian Doza. Connor Jones will be in the 44 for Nice Motorsports. Oh boy. The 66 of Thor Sport will be Luke Baldwin. Can't read here. Dawson Cram will be in the Mike Harmon 74 truck for the first time in I don't know how long Mike Harmon Racing has brought a truck. And the final entry, Garage 66 MBM Motorsports will be fielding a truck for Tyler Tomasi, the number 69. Nice. Um, that's a perfect segue over, Ethan, to pick points.
And now for next week's race picks.
Last
Yeah.
week, I took 7 points to your 3 and the guest 2. Our podium picks were
I messed up. I should have. I picked Daniel Suarez for the Cup City race because I thought that would have been an amazing story, and it would have been an amazing story. But he already had his amazing story in the Xfinity race. I should have just picked him for that. But oh well.
our F1 podiums, not very good. Well, the Oscar and Lando and 1-2 in some
Yeah.
combination.
Like
So,
like I said, first time all season that neither one of them was on a podium.
yeah. So, we all had 1 point because me and the guest had George Russell and you had Max Verstappen on your podium.
I
But
mean, I get 1 point, or don't I get like 2 points or something? Because he or 3 points or whatever. I don't know how
I thought Max
I don't know how
finished
you
second,
change.
right?
Yeah, you finished second.
So, no, you get 1 point because you picked him to finish third. He got second. He's got to finish third for your third pick to be right and get that extra points and vice versa.
Whatever. I don't know how Andrew changed the F1 point paying grade skill before the season, and I was like, yeah, sure, I don't care. But I don't know how it works.
It goes 5 if you get first right, 3 if you get second right, 2 if you get third right. If you get a driver on the podium and he finishes in the wrong spot, you get 1 point.
There you go.
For Indy next, I got 1 point over because Salvador de Alba finished over Dennis Hauger. And you, the guest and you got your point back because Pato O'Ward beat Scott McLaughlin. So
Bro loves finishing second.
no blood there. You got 1 point in the Xfinity race because Zilich beat out Allgaier and Bell. And I got 5 points for picking Shane Van Gisbergen correctly. Shout out Jeff Gluck and then this one Ty Gibbs fan on Twitter because when the Mexico City was around, so he's like, imagine that Shane Van Gisbergen's gonna win this race as a non-Amer the first non-American race potential race winner and track ever, I think. And now and then some Ty Gibbs fan and Ty Gibbs is gonna be in contention for him. And Ty Gibbs probably was second best guy on pace. So, going into this week's picks, my dad doing picks. I Me and you, Ethan, we had the same pick for Indy next, Road America. Dennis Hauger, he's on such a roll. My dad going with a guy who's third in the championship, hasn't won yet, but Kyle Collett.
Look, here's the deal. If it's a road course, I'm gonna pick Dennis Hauger just because he's been insane.
Okay.
Too
There,
good for Indy next. I'm sorry, he is.
yeah, you're not wrong there. We're all going Alex Palou for Road America. Won there before. Why wouldn't he win there again?
Yeah, especially with the run he's on this year.
Truck Series, you and me, Ethan, going Corey Heim.
Yeah, I was going to pick Carson Hocevar, because I like the run of form that he's been on, and I think that, every time he goes down to the truck series, he can be really competitive. And then I decided to look at what Corey Heim has done at Pocono, and I'm glad I did that because oh boy, oh boy, he has like a worse finish of fourth there.
Yeah. My dad going and kind of a dark horse, Daniel Hemrick. Still one there, but yeah. For his Xfinity pick, he went Jesse Love. He's had a decent season, top five in points. I'm going Chase Elliott, Hendrick car, Hendrick driver. Why not?
I wanted to pick Chase Elliott, but I also didn't want us to have the exact same thing bar our Cup Series predictions. So I'm picking Justin Allgaier, who is week in and week out a threat in the Xfinity Series. Even when Cup guys go down there, he is still a threat to win. You can't write him off, obviously. Like I said, I would have picked Chase Elliott. I do think that Chase Elliott is going to win, but can't count out Justin Allgaier.
And then Hamlin for my dad and I the pick. Hamlin's just always been good at Pocono. He won two races in his rookie year. And always been good since. Why not?
Yeah.
He's gonna finish top 10. He's basically had a bye week where he didn't have to go through all that travel.
Does that help
I
him
think
or
I
does
think
it hurt him?
I think he's fresh. That'll help him.
Do you think it's dad power? Does he already have kids?
Yeah, he already had kids.
Okay, so he's not gaining any dad power. Okay.
No.
Dad strength. Um, my pick is a guy who I promised to pick for this race so long ago that I don't even remember when it was.
I think this is like I like around Atlanta time.
I think you're right. This guy has yet to win a race in the NASCAR Cup Series after much hype in his Xfinity career. He's a guy who is very, very good at this track. I'm not sure if he's actually ever won here, but he's always ran well. And his run of form, because Andrew, a few weeks ago, I was not liking this pick. I was thinking it was going to be really bad, but he has turned it around in recent weeks, and I don't think it's crazy to say that I think Ty Gibbs will win the NASCAR Cup Series race at Pocono.
Yeah, I if you would have if you would have picked him for Michigan, I would have said, Ethan, you're crazy. But since how he's had this run of form, like you said rather, that's not a bad pick. It's like 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 you put Ty Gibbs on the sheet like long ago. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, that's gonna be a free point for me that weekend. Hope maybe I can be a five. Now I'm not so sure. Um, but I will say because I failed to mention that the standings are now 165 for you, 114 for me, guess 119. So that means you lead by 19. So in the past 3 weeks, we've gone net neutral, as you and I guess are now negative 46 back. Yeah, they're furthest back this season. Let me pull up how far back they were last season at this point. Season 2 pick points. Through, let's see. We were, what are we now? Navigating tabs here. 19 weeks in. 19 weeks. Oh, they were 44. So that's this comparable. But yeah. We'll see if they can hold on from see if they can improve from where they are now to then. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point I was 37 points back.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm doing better this season. Even though I haven't even though you've led the last what you've led the last let's see,
Forever.
doing math here. 31. You haven't been behind in the last 50 weeks. So gonna have to change that here soon because 50 weeks is a long time. So
Wait.
mm,
Nolan Siegel just got reprimanded by McLaren for usage of language over the what happened? What?
I think he had some sort of outburst toward the series, but I
Mm.
don't I think it was just an internal thing, but Era McLaren, ladies and gentlemen, one of in the past I've said for Ferrari is the or Andretti is the Ferrari of IndyCar. I think McLaren is now the Ferrari of
I don't
Andretti.
have the history.
They don't have the history. Gosh darn, they have.
It's Andretti.
McLaren's trying to take that over. Anyway, do you have anything left, Ethan?
Nope. Except
All
for
right.
saying bye and see ya.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked the fine time to leave me loose, wheel.